Helka Casey. Helka is a licensed professional clinical counselor with 14 years of clinical experience. She's worked in various settings such as public mental health and the partial hospitalization program. And she's also worked in private practice. And in July 2019, she joined the Ohio State University. She works in their EAP program and serves OSU and OSU Medical Center staff and their families with counseling services and mental health workshops. Helka is a lifelong resident of Westerville, graduated from North, go Warriors. And she's also a member of the Westerville Sunrise Rotary Club, and she serves on the Westerville Sunrise Rotary Board. She enjoys helping others learn more about mental health and in a very safe and comfortable and friendly environment. And for those of you that might not be Rotarians, it's funny. We are required as Rotarians to work Rotary into our bios. So I'm happy to announce that Helka will not be getting a fine from the Westerville Sunrise Rotary Sergeant at Arms because she worked Rotary into her bio. But please join me in giving a warm Westerville welcome to Helka.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm gonna do some technical jazz and start sharing my screen. Just one moment. All right, let me get my slideshow action. All right, can everybody see my main screen? Fantastic, I can see.
Looks good.
Please note, this is being recorded, and but during this process, if you have questions, comments, feel free to speak. I will also open my chat, and towards the end, I will definitely answer any questions or make any clarifications needed. So we are definitely talking about coping in a COVID-19 world, and this is the anniversary. We're going to today explore the emotional phases of disaster response, how to cope with the pandemic anniversary, honestly through a lens of gratitude and grace, and also talk about how we can continue working on our connection communication, because that is so vital in us coping during this time. So those of you who have already heard this with the City of Westerville talk and also the Rotary talk, this is the same slide, but we're at a different place now. This is the emotional phases of disaster response. Now, if you look at the beginning of the graph, pre-disaster, you can think about that warning threat time for most of us was about February into the very beginning of March. Most of us in the regular day-to-day in the United States didn't hear too much. Now, if you worked in the hospital setting or epidemiology and things of that nature, you might have heard about COVID more in January. But for most of us, we experienced this in February. The impact for most of the US citizens, especially here at Ohio and Westerville, was when our life changed, when they told us we're wearing masks, when we were told all of a sudden our lovely Aldi workers are essential workers, when we realized that our restaurants and our gyms had to shut down. For those of us, my anniversary date was March 19th. That's the first day I started working from home. I have not stepped into my office on campus since then. I am sad. So that's when that first impact really hit us. Then we started going to this uphill and heroic type feeling. Definitely the citizens of Westerville were here. We were banding together. We were supporting our uptown merchants. We were wearing our masks. We were being very careful. We were not the ones stealing the toilet paper. So we were feeling together. And then we were kind of in this honeymoon phase. We could maybe say that was between like May and June. We've got this. It's only going to be what, another month, right? We had ourselves fooled. We're going to get through this. We're together. We've got this new quote unquote normal. But like most of us at work and with our homes, with school, the kids, the uncertainty just kept going and things were changing and we didn't really have a new normal. The only thing that was normal was you better wear a mask, and the disillusionment set in. This has been a difficult time. We started realizing we were losing out on milestones, graduations, weddings. Maybe one of our family members got ill, either with COVID or without, and we couldn't even go to the hospital and be with them. This was really starting to take a toll on all of us, including our frontline workers. So we just kind of kept going down and down. When is this going to end? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired of this. If I have to order out again and take home, come on. We couldn't go on our trips. We had to cancel a lot of things that we've always used to do. When you look at those little trigger events on the bottom, You can think of those are the times like the Amy Acton and the Dr. Fauci told us, hey, after Halloween, there's going to be a surge. When we started getting those kind of impending threats, those were triggers for us. Like, well, oh no, what now? What now? When our kids went back to campus, if they were in colleges, that also kind of got to us. Then as we go up, we start seeing the anniversary reactions. This is where we're at now. We are in the anniversary reactions. It is a lot of us, we're kind of going, oh my Lanta, this time last year, what was I doing? I still felt kind of safe, right? I was still working from work, whatever it was. We're starting to see that. I know in my Facebook feed and my Instagram feed, I'm seeing people do the memory reminders and with like little memes saying, this time last year, I thought everything was okay. We're hearing that and it's not wonderful. And we're going into the reconstruction. So we're right here in anniversary reactions. We're moving into reconstruction. This is going to be a lot of what we would call in my business, trauma-related reminders. We are remembering some things. We are going to feel all the feels. So I'm going to go into that a little bit more. And please note, during this entire COVID time, we've also had a really tough 12 months of public instances of civil injustice. We have seen election stress to the nth degree that I think any of us have ever experienced, and it does not matter what political side you are on, we were all experiencing it. And throughout this, we were experiencing what we would call a collective grief. Now, you heard the statement that we're all in the same storm, but different boats. Yes, different boats, but that storm, that collective grief and loss, we've all been sharing together. So let's talk about this pandemic anniversary. Some people are calling it coronaversary, like to actually celebrate it. And I don't mind some of the emotional manipulation to make that better. So if you want to use that and that's a strength for you, go for it. But it's been a year. Literally today, marked last year, is when the CDC declared this a global pandemic. Let that sit in for a minute. Not only that, March 13th is when the governor said that with Ohio, we got to do stuff. We got to lock down. That's when this really started impacting us just a year ago. And with that anniversary reaction, we may experience some increased stress and distress, like I said, with those trauma-related reminders. And additionally, it can affect us mentally, physically, or both. Now, please note, if you just got the vaccination, hint, hint, wink, wink, you might feel fatigued. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about physically. You might have muscle memory of old stressors. You might have fatigue, little gastro fun. That's what anxiety does. That's what this kind of stuff does. And mentally, you may be preoccupied. You may be feeling anxious. You may be feeling symptoms of depression. There's a lot of stuff that can happen to us. So what I would tell yourself and your family member and your coworkers, honestly, is just say it's okay. You're not being not normal. It's not that you're unhealthy. This is our body and our minds responding to what we've been going through for the past year. So coping with the anniversary, the research says, and please note, I did give a list of my resources and citations to Brian. So if you need them, get them. If you're on this call, they should be in your chat. We want to prepare a self-care toolkit, and I'll go more into that. A big one, and it was the same that I suggested over the summer, limit your media consumption, because right now the hot ticket and the high ratings is talking about what we've all experienced this past year. And sometimes just exposing yourself to that is unhealthy. So be very mindful with your social media consumption and also just your news consumption. If you're starting to feel a little untethered, a little sensitive to that, guard yourself. In addition to that, we want you to lean into gratitude and grace. And I'll go more into that as well. Another big one is focus on thinking about how you've actually displayed resilience. We all got through this year. What a stinking year it's been. Don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of benefit, but it's also been the psychosocial stressors that we've all shared through this past year has been pretty intense and different than most. So we've done some resilience. We do have a growth mindset. So honor that. And then for a lot of people, I notice for my clients, now please note, I now serve OSU, Wexner Medical Center staff and their families. And what I have seen that February was a really tough month for a lot of us because they think we were holding on. We got through December, we got through holidays, we got through this election, a coup, just normal things that happen in January. And we were holding on and we've got this and we were hoping for this new year and hope for a lift. And then in February, everything was the same. And we were still in this winter, which normally our mood isn't super high in winter. So February, a lot of people really felt a lot of accumulation of stressors and symptomology. So a lot of people reached out to counseling during that time. And my colleagues in the private field echoed those sentiments with me. So if you're finding that your coping abilities right now just aren't cutting it, give a call to one of your therapists. If you work with a company that has an employee assistance program, start with them. If not, call your insurance, figure out who's a provider and go for it. So let's talk about what you can do. Just coping with feelings in general, okay? And then I'm going to get more specific to the things I identified earlier. This is just emotion management 101. Just embrace your emotions, whatever you're feeling, whether it's stress, whether it's sadness, whatever it is, and just embrace it and tell yourself that that's okay. You have a right to feelings. And please note, feelings are like waves on the sand. Just wait a moment, another one's going to come back up. So just let those be. They're not always fact. And then choose a coping skill that best fits where you're at. So whatever you're feeling, will self-talk help? Maybe positive self-talk. Maybe you need a redirect or distraction. I know for me, this entire COVID time, I have distracted myself with Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian. Isn't he just the cutest? I love it. Or you use your social support network. Already when I got on this call, people were saying hi, they were talking, they were just communing together. We need that sometimes. So use that. And then ask yourself, what can I do right now about the situation or this experience that I'm having? A lot of us like to go to why. I'm not a fan of that question. Why am I feeling this way? Why has a billion different answers. Why doesn't always get us moving to dealing with it. So I would say, ask yourself what and how. What am I feeling? What can I do it about right now? How can I go about it? You will find why along the way. Trust me, I've worked with like 1,000 people and I see it all the time. Plus, I do it. So here's the self-care toolkit. You can think of this as an actual tangible item or more of just preparing yourself mentally, okay? So this is great too. You can do this for yourself and you can also help your children with this. So it can be, like I said, tangible, but sometimes, honestly, people think of self-care as like, oh, I'm going to get a massage or my nails done did. That's not really what I'm talking about here. Please note, those are wonderful. Book them, schedule them, wear your mask. It's all good. But really what it's about is finding those things for you that replenish you, that replenish your energy, that maybe for some terms center you, okay? And I also want you to think of self-care as not just a moment in time. I want you to think of it kind of like your physical activity where they tell us you need to work out for 30 minutes a day or do aerobic activity, but you can break it up in 10-minute increments. You can do the same with self-care. So if that means you did a 2-minute meditation in the morning to get you ready for your workday, boom, self-care drop. You had a nice healthy breakfast, boom, self-care drop. That's great. Keep doing those types of things. The kit really is about identifying and having that self-evaluation of what works for me. It could be that some of your coping skills might be self-talk, your redirection, distraction, your social support network. Maybe identifying the people in your life that you can go to. Maybe I can go to Diane to talk about Rotary stress, and maybe I go to Kathy to talk about my relationship. Who knows? So those are things that you can do. Think about the people that are in your network. Also, think about maybe things that you like to do for distraction, maybe a favorite movie or show, hello, Baby Yoda, that might help you just kind of chill out and feel good. Maybe it's a stress ball, an actual stress ball. Maybe it's essential oils that help you kind of get into a better mindset. Maybe it's this simple reminder to breathe or having a journal nearby that you know when you need it, it's there. It could be an inspiring quote, a mantra, or reading from a religious text. It could be the permission to say no to others and yes to you. That's a big one for a lot of us, because what are we all? We're in this, you guys are neighbor to neighbor because you care about your neighbors, right? Sometimes we have to say, I love my neighbor and I need to love me a little bit more right now. That's okay, because that's just going to help them out later. And it just could also be a healthy or comforting meal, a walk in your favorite park. Just think about the things that work for you. Lately, mine has been finding the sunspot that creeps into my house and lying on it with my little dogs. That to me really makes me feel good. If the weather's decent, honestly, I will take a towel and just sit out or lay out in my backyard and just be with the earth and just feel like I'm connected to something bigger than me. That kind of restores me. And then also I found a great app, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, with like 80,000 free meditations for different times, for different topics. That honestly has also been helping me. So like I said before, you can think of this as tangible or just kind of that preparation that you have that go-to when you're in those more activated places with stress or just feeling a little untethered. And this is kind of cool to do with your kids. You can actually make a self-care kit. Go on Pinterest, you'll get ideas, Google some stuff. There's more out there. There's another piece that you can add to your self-care kit, and that are grounding techniques. Some of you are familiar with these. What happens is this: when we get anxious or stressed or scared, we're starting to function from the back of the brain. That's our amygdala, our hippocampus. It's where our fear response is: fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. Sometimes functioning from that part of the brain isn't so helpful, and we're overwhelmed with emotion, or we're feeling really activated in our anxiety. If we do a grounding technique, it can really help center us. Little thing I like to say: anxiety lives in the future, depression lives in the past, and we need to get into the now. So getting in touch with your physical senses can really help you focus. And one thing that we do is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 breathing. You can look this up on the Google, the Pinterest. You can take a screenshot picture right now. And it's basically you identify 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel. Now, feeling is not emotional, believe it or not, it's physical. So like right now, I can feel the hair on the nape of my neck. I can feel the firmness of my chair under my legs, that kind of feeling sensation. 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. What happens is this: when we start focusing on our senses in that brief moment, do a little breathing while we're doing it. What happens is this: the focus of the brain goes from the back, where that fear response is, into the front, into the neocortex, which is the logic center. And we get more logical, and we can start maybe utilizing those better coping skills in that moment, because we've dealt with the immediate icky, anxiety-ridden feelings. So it helps us focus and make better decisions on how to move forward. Then this other app I was telling you about, and there's tons of apps, and I would suggest with you, with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, talk about what works. Let's borrow each other's strength. But Insight Timer, I do not pay for it, by the way. I do the free one because I don't pay for stuff. There's, like I said, 80,000 free meditations, and they're different times and different topics, and it can be really helpful. And it actually builds the gray matter in your brain, which can also help get you a nice, more calmer default setting, which is nice. Another way to look in your self-care tip, especially for coping with this pandemic anniversary and living in a COVID-19 world, is gratitude. Now, please note, do not say, just be grateful. Because when we hear gratitude or be grateful, it almost feels like you shouldn't be complaining about your struggles. I'm going to minimize them, and you should just be happy for the positives. I am not that kind of therapist. I'm all about let's get accurate. And that's what gratitude really does. Let's take a look at this quote. As it says, gratitude doesn't change what we have in front of us. It changes the way we see what we have. The human brain has a natural tendency to give weight and remember negative experiences and interactions more than the positive ones. They just stand out more. So because our brains are wired to scout out for the bad stuff, if we can challenge that by regularly practicing gratitude, it gives us more of an accurate perception of our life and our situations. And practicing gratitude consistently can do more than just that, make you feel good in the moment. Studies have actually showed just a few minutes a day to reflect on what you're grateful for can not only make you happier, but physically can help your body be healthier and really boost your immune system. And during a worldwide pandemic, who doesn't want a boosted immune system? Sorry, that was horrible, but you know what I mean. So really, it's honestly the quality of being thankful and the readiness to show appreciation. So this is how I would say it in regards to my work situation. I am grateful that The Ohio State University has afforded me the opportunity to work from home and serve staff even during a worldwide pandemic. And I am done working from home. I'm tired. I'd like to see people in person and not on a box. In that space, I'm acknowledging that, yes, I'm grateful for the positive things, and I'm still struggling with the negative things. And that's okay. And is a very powerful word. But is an eraser. So if you can get the buts out of your language, it's a good idea. Start putting some ands in. You'll be amazed how it changes your perspective. And like I said before, the health benefits of gratitude, if you practice just a few minutes of gratitude a day, and it could even be 60 seconds, it improves your sleep quality, it increases your blood pressure, it increases your energy level, it reduces stress and depressive symptoms, and it helps you honestly live longer. And how you can show gratitude, and I know neighbor to neighbor people know this very well, and same with my Rotarians, shout out, give compliments. We acknowledge people, we acknowledge their efforts. Even if that's part of your job, you acknowledge good work. You make a list of things that you are grateful for. Sometimes writing it down can help because you're using both lobes of your brain and you'll remember it more. Volunteer in your community. Well, you guys all got that in spades. And do those small random acts of kindness, and believe it or not, smiling. Now, I'm not coming at you as a female saying, women, you need to smile more. That's not what I'm talking about. The actual physical act of smiling does make you feel better in that moment and can have a long-lasting effect. So there's true science behind this. I know it sounds goof, but it's true. And then the other piece I like to think about with coping, especially during this time, because a lot of us are very hard on ourselves, is grace. Now, I know grace is used a lot more in a religious context, and that can also apply. Where I'm leading more towards is really self-compassion. It is truly nurturing yourself with the kindness and love that you would shower on someone you cherish. There has been so much negative self-talk, like, I'm not doing this right, I'm not good enough at this. Man, if I was really good, I could be a parent teaching my kid at home and work my 40-hour work week and navigate Costco during a pandemic. Relax. Show yourself some grace and some acceptance and compassion, just like you would show somebody else. Sometimes we need to do that. So not only for yourself, but also your colleagues, your coworkers, your family, and your friends. This is still the first time any of us have been doing this during a worldwide pandemic. I remember earlier in counseling this summer with staff, I'd be like, it's the first time you've been a nurse during a pandemic. It's the first time you've been a professor. And I've been saying this to my staff, my clients. And I finally turned it back on me because I was starting to feel that, like, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Helka Casey, this is the first time you've been a therapist during a pandemic. Relax a little. Give yourself that movement. So I really want you to pull that gratitude and grace will really help you kind of focus on those self-care strategies. And just pause for just a moment and really ask yourself, what have you learned about yourself, your family, your work teams over the past year? Honestly, the resiliency, how we've done things, how we were able to adjust, how we were agile, we were flexible. I did not know how to use Zoom before. I am a Zoom queen now. I am all over it. I'm like, breakout room? Okay, I'll put you in a breakout room. The skills I learned in the past year is amazing. The strength I didn't know I had. The strength me and my husband, we were only in our second year of marriage, people locked up in a house. It's amazing. So just think about those of you who had to teach your children because they couldn't go to school and you had to make sure they got to their Zoom calls and all of the adjustment and transitions we've done. we've done pretty well. So just give that to yourself and maybe have a conversation with your family at the dinner table and see what people come up with. It's really interesting. And transitioning to with COVID-19, it has changed how we connect and communicate. And we have been living in the box. This is what my boss calls it. It cracks me up. We've been working, volunteering, even our Rotary meetings are in the box. This is such a weird way to interact with people. By the end of the day, my eyes are square because that's all I do. I do telehealth. I do my trainings like this for the university. This is how we communicate with sometimes family and friends. So just being mindful of that. And some different ways we can do it. You guys have already been building on these strengths, which is reimagining your opportunities for connection. I just met one of my friends. She's Cheryl. We've known her since middle school, Westerville alum. She lives in Westerville. And we finally felt comfortable enough because I got the vaccine. She doesn't have it yet, but we met on the back porch because it was sunny out. Normally, I would have just been like, hey, let's go to Good Vibes, but this time we had to do something a little different. We have to get creative. Maybe making virtual coffee breaks, setting up mini meetings. This could be work or personal. Book club chats. I walked in early on a Zoom meeting that they had me present at a team meeting at one of the university departments, and they were all playing an online question game on their phones while they were on Zoom together. And I'm like, that is so creative. That wouldn't have happened normally. Going for the masked walk in the park. And also still identifying milestones for people, acknowledging them, celebrating them. Luckily, we're starting to get the vaccines. We're starting to feel safer. I feel like the vaccine is my first mask, and then my next one is my real mask. So we're getting a little bit more comfortable, and luckily the weather's starting to cooperate. We can get creative. And also, well, hello, rain just started, so the weather's not that great today. Communication through email and text. We as a society, especially the Gen Xers and younger, we're very dependent on email and text. All of us are, especially in our work worlds. It's not a bad place to start communicating or relaying information, but if you find yourself doing a string back and forth clarifying, oh my Lanta, stop the typing and pick up the phone, or use a Teams call or do a Zoom call. Meet people, because we're missing a lot of communication by not being co-located, and that's going to help you out. So definitely try to weave that in to your world with communication. This is also another great place where there's an opportunity to practice grace and not go into assumption land, because remember, the brain likes to go negative, and I like to interpret your email as it's really sassy, and it might not be. So just try to be a little bit more open and ask for clarification. Don't just assume, especially even in our relationships, because there's a lot of texting even in those, and we can really misinterpret some stuff. And this will be a continuing opportunity as we transition back to the workplace. For those of us who have either done hybrid or we've been at home during the pandemic, we are looking at the next 3 to 6 months as almost a different recovery period and getting back into the workplace. Please, gratitude and grace is going to help you through this and working on your communication skills, because we're all going to be going through a lot of the feels. Then some additional coping strategies for you. Maintain your routines. That's helpful for those of us who are more neurotypical. We do routine. That's going to be a strength for you to feel a little bit more anchored, especially as we're going through change, going back to the workplace and making things a little bit different. Protecting your schedule. I think a lot of us in the virtual world have fallen prey to overscheduling. I'm back to back these days, where before I'd have to book travel time to go do a presentation. Well, now I don't, because everything's virtual. And the Helka gets really burned out by the end of the day. So I literally put in my schedule now like a 10-15 minute block, and it's called a box breather because we're living in the box. So little things like that, just be mindful. And also protect your schedule for self-care. If you need 10 minutes or 15 minutes to go do a run, you might need to talk to your partner and be like, dude, you're on kid duty. I got to run. It might be, I'm not going to schedule a client during this 1 hour because it's the 1 hour I have paperwork and I need to get my paperwork done. They're going to have to reschedule. So there's little things that we need to do. We're really good at scheduling for everybody else and not ourselves. Remember to keep walking through with flexibility and agility. Challenge your expectations of what the ideal needs to be. That's a big one. You could go to counseling for years on that topic alone. And your boundaries matter. That's your physical space and your mental and emotional space. Like I said, sometimes you just have to say no. As lovely as it was to see Cheryl yesterday, I didn't realize how different it is to be co-located, putting out that social energy. And I love her. Her and I, it's like a soap opera. We just pick up and keep going. But it really did take some of my energy out. So just be mindful of that. And then, of course, I'm a therapist. Counseling is always a great option, where it can be an hour just about you to help you get the skills and development that you may need. And then this one, I didn't do a lot of changing because Westerville just changed everything up again on Monday, and the kids are back in school. My niece and nephews go to New Albany, so some of them had the option to do hybrid and some just do virtual. So if you do have the virtual hybrid thing, most of you have already successfully done this. We're far into the school year, but try to have a dedicated space for their study area. Coordinating the best you can with your child's learning schedule with your work schedule. Luckily, especially as we re-enter the workplace, there might be some good opportunities for you and your supervisors to talk about some realistic schedules, especially because summer's coming and we don't have to send them to school. We might not have other options. Use your child's school planning tools. Try to do to-do lists, very nice graphs that are age appropriate for your children with them as well. We're not going to get big scholars this year, guys. There's been a lot of transition. So just being flexible and agile and going, you know what? I'd rather have a hard-earned C than an easy A any day, and really look at the purpose of why we're going to school. And really try to communicate with and utilize your teachers and your kids' peers. And once again, gotta love my boundaries, physical, mental, and emotional boundaries between their school day and their after school day. Because we normally had to drive home. Now we've got 4 steps to go back to the kitchen. Same with the kids. They need a little bit of help in that transition of expectation. In review, just to give you guys that shared language for you and your family, we are in the anniversary phase and we are heading towards reconstruction. Please be mindful and intentional with your efforts of connection and communication. It looks a lot different than pre-COVID. Trying to focus with grace and gratitude for yourself, that self-compassion, and to have a more accurate view of what your experience is. Routine, if you've got it, use it. It's going to make you feel more anchored. Self-care is not selfish. It's self-preservation. Ask for help if and when you need it. And there is hope. We've already shown that. So I go to here to questions and comments. I've already shared my resources. I'm going to stop share the screen. And if you have any questions, I'd like to see. I'm going to look at the chat real quick. Yes, this session does count as talking with your therapist. Happy to help. That was cute, Linda. And Matt asked, is self-care for bad mental health days graphic available for us? Yes, I will. I think it's in one of my attachments, my citations, but if not, I will make sure I send the graphic to Brian because that's not my graphic. I'm happy to share that. Yeah, I pilfer from the internet. I do my research. Does anybody have any questions or comments? You got me live. Did something meet your expectations, not meet your expectations? Anything else that you need?
Yeah, I'd like to say that you put into words so many of the things that are floating around in my brain that weren't logically placed there. And I have to admit, I screenshot a few of those so I can share them with my husband tonight.
Good.
They're leaning into grace and gratitude and thinking about how you've displayed resilience, because there's times you're, oh God, and how nice it is to know that you have to think about it, but there is resilience and there's ways that we've handled things, that we've made it through, we've made things fun. And what have we done, just the two of us being in our home for over a year together? And you think 2 years is bad, we're going on 47, so you got a long way to go to catch up with some of us. but those are the secrets, the communication and taking time for yourself. That's the one thing. I looked at a lot of this because my daughter has a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and she's not been away from them since February of last year, not even an hour. And what she does for her to manage her stress. And we FaceTime every night because that's a communication between us, and we can laugh at the kids. And she's also seeing a therapist, which we all encourage her to do. More people are going to be, your job is going to be safe for a long time, because more people are recognizing the need for therapy, especially for the kids.
Yes.
I have a granddaughter who sees a therapist regularly now too. And I say, you go for it, because if it makes you feel better and gives you that self-esteem and that groundedness, you do it, because that's what that's out there for. So I really want to thank you for this. You put a lot of it into words for me.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And that's what this is. This is nothing new for any of you. It's shared language and finding terms and knowing you're not alone. It is truly, we are on the same storm in different boats, and just being able to have those terms sometimes and explain in different words helps you kind of be able to organize and evaluate yourself more productively and more accurately. So good. Thank you for sharing that.
My wife, Helka, she's a professor at Franklin, and she was in the same boat with you. In March, she was told to leave her office, and she hasn't been back since, with the exception, there was one day, I think it was in November, she had to go in and get something. I can't remember what it was. And it was really surreal because, the plant in her office, the plants are dead.
Yep.
The calendar's on March. She had, a bunch of things she was working on in that moment. Job applications sitting all over her desks for jobs that ended up not being filled because of the pandemic. And it was just very surreal. It was almost like a time capsule. It was like stuck in a moment in time, and very surreal for her.
It's interesting you say that. My boss has done a few days back in the office. We're at 700 Ackerman, and she's been back there a few times. My colleague went back once because she needed to get some things, and she picked up some stuff for me. And because why would I pay parking if I got somebody else to go? And all the March St. Patty's Day decorations are still up. And they're like, it's weird. And my boss even said, she's like, I'm leaving them up because I want you guys to see them when we come back. We have gotten through a year. And it is, it's surreal. And we're going to be looking at another interesting period with this reconstruction and return to work for people. It's going to bring on its own challenges. And with a growth mindset, it's going to bring new opportunities. So I think that's that piece where gratitude and grace can really help us get through this and cope through it, because we're going to go through it. It's just, can we go through it a little less unscathed?
Helka, I like when you were talking early on about the triggers, because sometimes you see an anniversary coming that you can kind of expect it, and other times it comes right out of the blue and, knocks you on your butt. And I really appreciate that you talked about being able to say, okay, this comes, I'm in the moment, get through it, it's going to go away. How am I dealing with it? I think that's that self-talk. You just have to kind of remember that we've all never been through this, and whatever happens, that's new for everybody. But thanks for this talk. I missed the Rotary one, so this was great, Helka. Thank you.
Oh, good.
I wanted to say I retired when the pandemic started to my house.
I can't even. That's a whole nother set of stuff, because that retirement process, I've worked with a lot of clients who've been through the retirement process, and that's a whole different mind shift. And then not to be able to activate anything outside of your home. Oh my Lanta, that is a whole different struggle bus.
Yeah, it isn't exactly what I was planning, but I'm grateful for my family, that nobody's gotten very ill.
Yeah.
My mother is 89. She's had both of her shots now, no reaction to it at all. So I'm living in gratitude every day, and hoping that once this is done, I can get out into the community and volunteer and do things that I had planned to do.
Mm-hmm. Good. Very hopeful outlook you have. That's good. we've been through a lot. We've lost a lot. We've gained some things. And yeah, it's a lot. And I don't think any of us really to conceptualize that we're going to have anniversary triggers. We would think about it with a personal loss, like if somebody passed away, it's the anniversary of their, but to think about, we actually lost our freedom of mobility in the community. I could not just go down the aisle of shame at Aldi's with reckless abandon. Like I had to plan it. I had to go early because I'm immune compromised. I got to wear my mask. Don't stay too long. Take your list. It's even something as simple as that was somewhat altered and adjusted and taken, let alone our freedom to see our loved ones, or if somebody did get ill, or if somebody did pass from COVID.
I have to say there's one other phenomenon that you haven't touched on yet, but I've been experiencing it. Even before I finally got my last shot yesterday, as I go into a place, I scan for how many people are there.
Yes.
Whereas before I just walk in, but if there's a lot of people that I turn around and walk out, I am not ready to deal with people yet on a mass, like tons of them. If I go to a restaurant, I go, okay, how are they social distancing? What are their procedures? Where are they? Where am I going to sit? Because I don't want to be near any of those people.
Yes.
And that's not the way I operate. I like to be with people all the time. So I've been finding that a lot lately. Mm-hmm. And even though I just got vaccinated, I know that's going to be with me for a while because I'm going to very slowly go into it. If I'm at a store like Meijer, where I shop all the time, if I look down the aisle and there's 3 people there, I go to another aisle and come back later. It's like
the mental load. Yeah. What you're referring to is 2 things: the mental load of living in a COVID world and having that preparation that you're talking about, and then the seeking out is that hypervigilance. And that's why it's almost like a trauma response. It's, I don't want to compare it this way, but it's the only thing I got in my brain right now. So if you were in special ops in the military and you're used to constantly looking for insurgents with guns, when you're in your civilian life, you easily have that same skill set to look for guns, even in a Myers.
Oh yeah, and they always sit with their backs to the wall so they can view the whole place.
They know where the exits are, where everything is. It's a hypervigilance, and we've been practicing that for the past year, so that skill is still with us. So yes, the preoccupation that we have right now, it still suits us, and I don't think it's a unhealthy thing. It's good that you're aware of it. I think if it's once it goes further into this and we're reacclimated and things are getting back to quote unquote normal, or I like to say back to better, you find that that's pressuring you or that's been more negative for you, that's when maybe I need to call somebody like a Helka and work on this a little differently, because then it might be maladaptive at that point.
Okay, then I'll meet you at Good Vibes, but I want to make sure there's not a lot of people there when I do.
It's the only time I go. So yeah, 12 o'clock on Saturday, there's not a lot of people.
My fear, Helka, emotionally is not just for my wife and I, but for many. We have some people that are like, heck yeah, everyone has their shots. Let's get this going, start big events, start getting this going. And then the amount of people that are like forced to, because of work or circumstances, to do it when they're not ready. I'm finding that stress here in our home because we have a 1-year-old that can't be vaccinated. But then we're feeling the pressure of, all right, now we're being forced to go do this, and we aren't comfortable. I'm just kind of curious what kind of your thoughts are. Maybe not for me in particular, but in this next phase, as we struggle.
That's going to be part for the work, the return to work phase. That's going to be one of the issues, is people's comfort and sense of safety. And so that's something, I'm still learning about, because we're just doing it now. So it is a lot about being open and frank with your boss. Like my boss asked me, because I got my vaccination, Helka, do you mind doing rounds at Martha Morehouse? And I'm like, probably in May, because I want to make sure this cooks with me a little bit. I need to get used to it. And she's like, okay, that's reasonable. So I was able to negotiate. So it depends on that kind of work world. But personally, like your family, if they're like, oh, we're doing the big, family reunion of 150 people this Saturday, and you're not comfortable, you say no. Is it easy to say no? No, it's not. But this is the same advice or recommendations we made at the beginning of the pandemic. This is not a place where we argue facts with our family and friends. This isn't about the science, the epidemiology, all of that stuff. This is about our sense of comfort. And if you're not comfortable being in a large group right now on your personal lives, you have a right to say no. You have to give yourself that permission. Or I'll come at the beginning because I know not a lot of people will be there and I'm going to leave early. And you owe no one an explanation. And I know that sounds a little harsh, and you don't. And you can blame me, but it's true. We really don't. It's really about comfort. My parents, we've been very safe. My husband works at the James. I work at home. We've been very safe. But there for a while, they did not want to come over. Okay, well, my dad just texted me. They got their vaccinations. He's like, we're starting to feel better. Can we come over for dinner? I'm like, sure. But I had to respect or at least appreciate that they didn't want to before because of their sense of comfort. So
Certainly.
that, the two of you, as long as the two of you are aligned with your personal stuff, you're going to be fine. It'll be uncomfortable, but you'll be fine. At work, I think there's room for negotiation. There's room for discussion and room for accommodation. We've learned in the past year, we can do things differently and still be effective and still be productive. Of course, we have to use a little bit of appropriate professional speak. I probably wouldn't talk like me, but you can definitely, there's still room for that. And that's going to be a big piece of re-entering the work world.
Yeah, I see, and not being in your profession, I almost see as an outsider more effects emotionally on people because now there becomes peer pressure, whereas it was the cool thing to be outspoken about wearing masks and staying the hell away from one another.
Yes.
Now it's, well, we have our shots, so you just stop being so safe. I see more of those like emotional triggers starting in this phase compared to in the thick of all of this.
We're getting into a new social expectation, and that's where we have to stay vigilant with what matches our value set and our comfort level. And that's hard. I remember having a conversation with my husband and when I got the first vaccination, because I took a selfie with the little Brutus statue. It's what I do. And everybody's been posting. And I literally told him, I go, I don't think I want to post this. And he's like, why? I go, because then people are going to think I'm available socially and I'm not comfortable yet. And I finally did post the second one. And luckily I haven't had any pressure, but my friends pretty know me well, I'll just say no. But I was worried about that extra ask. So you're correct. We are already starting to feel that.
Yeah, and I've spent actually a lot of times with virtual like happy hours with friends, and the sense of almost depression because we're like in our young 30s and 20s. We're not getting that anytime soon. So every selfie, I've had buddies that are struggling with depression anyways, that are like, there's another person, I'm not getting it anytime soon, so
yes,
it's that kind of talk that I'm starting to hear just as an outsider now. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, because everybody's brought up some great points, because, there is a lot of transition going on. And once again, that grace, giving yourself the compassion. And when I say grace, I also hear the word space in my mind. I get space to make decisions. I get time. And if somebody else is not going to afford that for me, I'm going to take it because it's our lives, it's our health, it's our families. And so
I wanted to share, we just got back from Hawaii, as somebody said earlier, and my son and daughter-in-law said, we'll see you when you quarantined. They live 4 doors away from us.
Yep.
And I said, okay.
Yep. It's their boundary.
It's your
respect. Do you?
Yep.
We can still call, FaceTime.
Yep.
Nope, that's good. That's very good.
I think we're all going to have to learn how to respect people's boundaries that we weren't even thinking about before. Because if someone says no to you now, you have to realize they're coming from their own space. And instead of just saying no because they don't want to or they're busy, that's something we've never had to do before. So you have to say, okay, because really what they might be saying is, I'd love to, but I can't. I just don't feel comfortable. They don't want to say that to you. They say, no, I can't make it, and cover it up because I don't feel comfortable saying that. So we're all going to have to be very cognizant of that as we go forward. I'm still wearing a mask I'm going to wear a mask till my grandkids get vaccinated, in my opinion, because I don't want to give them anything when I see them, you know, even if well, no matter what happens, I would be that 1.0% of something that gave something to someone and I'd feel terrible. So
Right.
I'm still going to try to,
Yeah.
you know, keep it as safe as possible. But
And
I'm not
I-
going to shy away from things necessarily. I'm going to try to be participant in events if I can, but I'll just make sure I'm stepping back from people. Don't come near me, don't touch me.
And do it to your comfort level. So when
Yeah.
Helka comes to run at you on State Street and give you a hug, you're gonna be like, no, Helka.
Well, I might, you never know. I might be comfortable by then. I miss
think-
hugs.
And honestly, I know, so do I. The approach that you were just talking about, that we can't assume, that we need to give people grace, and just that, you know, not assume their comfort level and be considerate of that. That's going to blend beautifully already with neighbor to neighbor and what the city of Westerville is doing, because it honestly, it leads to inclusion. It's being mindful of differences and different perspectives and approaches, and having that be an opportunity, and not always being blindsided and just going, so what's comfortable for you? And being able to just be cognizant of somebody having a different approach. And we're also doing a lot of inclusion, diversity stuff at OSU. And so it just beautifully blends with that of taking a step back and really looking at that. So I think that goes well with also what your guys' mission is. No, thank you so much for inviting me. I think the after talk was very beneficial to me. I also enjoyed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a great time. And I hope we can actually put this in a format that other people can see, because I know they'll learn from it as well.
Sure. Yeah. You guys are welcome. Yeah, he's going to record it, and I'll get you that. All the pictures I have, I'll get those to Brian. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Day.
Nice seeing everybody. Bye.
Bye.